Welcome back to a new video, everyone. Today I will be going over my top 10 favorite Christmas movies of all time. Let's get started. So as you've read from the title, this is my top 10 favorite Christmas movies. These are basically the 10 films that I would recommend you watch this Christmas. One honorable mention I want to give is a film that a lot of people like, but I definitely don't enjoy as much. It didn't make my top 10. That is A Christmas Story. That's right, it did not make my top 10. Before we get started, share your list in the comments down below. If you want to tell me what your favorite Christmas movie is, I would love to hear your thoughts. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get into my list. Coming in at number 10 is A Nightmare Before Christmas. I personally didn't love this movie, but I did appreciate some aspects of it. It blended Halloween and Christmas together, and the concept is really creative. These people who only know Halloween try to understand what Christmas is all about, and the main character, Jack Skellington, is pretty good. The stop-motion animation is great, but I was getting annoyed at the music a little by the end. I think I would still call this a good film, and it makes my top 10 Christmas movies, but I don't like it as much as many do. Number 9 for me is The Santa Claus. Mostly, this is just a really funny and enjoyable film. We get to see Tim Allen slowly start to look like Santa. I realized that there were some little ideas borrowed from Miracle on 34th Street, which is also on this list. There's this kid who's not supposed to believe in Santa, but then they meet Santa in real life, or, in this case, his father becomes Santa Claus. I would definitely recommend this film if you just want to have a fun time. It's not groundbreaking like some of these, but it is fun, and that's all it needs to be. Number 8 is Miracle on 34th Street. It's simple, slow-paced, and easy to follow. I think most people would at least like it. It's a Wonderful Life only came out 1 year before this, and this film is nowhere near as good as that to me, but it is still so much better than it sounds like it should be. The ending when they prove that Chris actually is Santa Claus in court, it's pretty funny. There's not really anything to dislike here. All the acting is great, and there's not much else to say besides this is just a charming film that you might want to check out. It's just not one of my all-time favorites. Number 7 is Home Alone 2: Lost in New York. Home Alone 2 is a fantastic sequel that's honestly just as good as the original, but it's not as high as Home Alone on this ranking because I want to give more credit to the original films rather than the sequels. If we're being honest, Home Alone 2 is basically just doing the exact same thing as the first. It's just this time Kevin is lost in New York. It would be pretty much impossible for someone to like Home Alone but not like the sequel. It takes everything that was perfect from the first and makes it even bigger. It's an enjoyable follow-up. Number 6 for me is actually going to be The Polar Express. This was actually the Christmas film that I would watch every year as a tradition. It wasn't Home Alone or Elf. It was The Polar Express. I don't know if people really like this film, but it's one that I've seen a lot of times and I've always really enjoyed. Looking back, the animation was kinda weird. They tried to make it look too much like live action, and it looks sort of off. Other than that, I think the story is really good. It's an interesting concept of this train that comes on Christmas Eve and takes these kids to the North Pole. It's pretty interesting, and it's a fun time. At number 5, I have Die Hard. Die Hard is indeed a Christmas film, and it makes my top 5. All the action in this film is pretty great, but what makes it so good is that our main character is really just a normal guy trapped in this building with terrorists. He's not some kind of hero, he's just a guy like anyone else. Bruce Willis does a good job, and so does Alan Rickman as this great villain. Die Hard obviously doesn't have a good feeling that most movies on this list have, but it is a near-perfect action movie that doesn't really have any flaws to point out. And on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, my number 4 is Elf. Definitely one of the funniest films on the list. Will Ferrell puts on a perfect performance as this man who thinks he's an elf and was raised as an elf in the North Pole. All the fish out of water humor and Buddy interacting with regular people is awesome. This might be the funniest Christmas movie on the list, besides maybe Home Alone. Not many movies will get you in the Christmas spirit as easily as Elf will, especially in the climax. Elf is probably the Christmas movie to go to if you just want to feel good and laugh a little bit. In third place for me is The Muppet Christmas Carol. I'm gonna be honest and tell you that I've barely seen any Christmas Carol adaptations. I've basically only seen the Mickey Mouse one and this, but wow, The Muppet Christmas Carol has got to be close to perfect. Michael Caine as Scrooge was great casting, and all the Muppet songs actually go really well. Of course, the lesson that Scrooge learns in the story is great, and this movie executes it perfectly. I love how they made it feel like Muppets, but it is also a fantastic Christmas Carol at the same time. If you have not seen this, you need to go see it very soon. My runner-up is Home Alone. What a classic. Everything about Home Alone is fantastic. Kevin is hilarious throughout this entire film, and I love seeing him find all these creative ways to protect his home against the criminals, who are also really funny characters. It's just fun to see these criminals get tortured by a kid. Beyond all the fun, there is a little lesson that Kevin learns as well. He thinks that he doesn't want his family, but he learns that he actually does like them by the end.
Instead of presents this year, I just want my family back.
But mostly, this film is just extremely fun and entertaining. It's impossible to dislike. Also, the score by John Williams is phenomenal. My favorite Christmas film, It's a Wonderful Life. I just watched this film for the first time very recently, and it was absolutely a masterpiece. It was so far ahead of its time, and it feels timeless in its storytelling. Most of the movie is just a really intriguing story about a guy who wants to do the right thing, but it's just not quite working out. And eventually he gets to the point where he thinks the world would be better off without him.
I'm worth more dead than alive.
Then he's given the opportunity to see what the world would have been like if he was never born. He realizes that he's affected so many lives and made the world so much better. It's summed up perfectly right here.
Each man's life touches so many other lives.
Then the very ending when all the people help George pay off his debt, it's so inspiring and a perfect way to conclude the film. If you haven't seen It's a Wonderful Life yet, you need to check it out this Christmas. Trust me, even if you don't really like old movies, this one's timeless and it will win you over. So yeah, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like. You can check out some of my previous videos over here and over here. And thanks for watching. This is Movie Micah signing off. I'll see you next time.